Imagine you didn't have breakfast this morning. How would that make you feel?
Hello, Sage. This is Cody. Or how? Wait a minute.
Oh, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Check it out. Hear the echo in the night sky, with stars and headlights entwined. Tales of diesel and determination, living life beyond the white line.
There's a stretch where silence roars, sirens hum a solemn tune. Every journey writes a saga in the glow of the highway moon.
Sage outcast portals, where the big lows, big roads meet.
Talking miles,
talking metal,
every ridge,
every ride,
every week.
Sage outcast portals,
From the yard to the last white line.
if it's trucking and bones,
Deep hustle,
get tuned into that state of mind. Keep the fire
burning bright,
while the world
wave the night,
through the miles,
to the time,
we ride on.
in the endless climb. In the endless climb. In the endless
Sage. I'm sorry. Please don't record this.
I forgive you. I forgive you. All right, we are back. It is Tuesday. I'm kind of doing the logistics show. Who I got? Perfect. I don't have any producer because my producer, well, he took off yesterday. A little bit to tell you today. We've got the Sage story. We definitely have story time with Sage. We have that because I live up here in pre-Canada. We're also known as Maine, allegedly, for now. It's not Middle America, but it sure acts like it. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what's going on there in Mexico, because that might affect your logistics. Also going to talk about tariffs. And a couple videos to show you. And I'm hoping, because Ark did an update, I'm going to have to put Diablo on here because I didn't do the update. We might play a little, I might be playing a little bit of video games now since I'm doing Diablo. But, and it's a call-in show. Let's get the party started first. Oh, boy.
Hey,
Yes.
you are not Kevin Costner.
True. Very true. I'm not Kevin Costner. This is Sage from the Sage Outcast Show. What do we do here? It's very simple. We talk logistics, talk current events, talk news, call-in show. There's a phone number on the screen. We game, we chat, we laugh, we live, we cry. We do it all here. We do it all here at the Sage Outcast Show. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, let's dive into quick story time with Sage. I know you all love it here, but we're going to dive into this real quick. First off, I would make a shout out to TC Boggs for his lack of entertainment and knowledge in the industry, but we'll get back to that. So if TC Boggs, anybody's watching who knows TC Boggs, do me a favor, reach out to him, make him watch the show. Okay. So I, as the President of the United States of America's Northeast chapter of the Bigfoot Association, we'll just leave that last part out. Just consider me President of the United States. I am declaring tariffs on winter and snow. I am tariffing 25% on all winter events in regards to weather and all of its doings. I will no longer allow it to take advantage of me in any way, shape, or form with dropping 2 foot of snow on my location in a day when my tractor is broken. I'm just done with it. It's been taking advantage of us up here in pre-Canada for way too long, just throwing its snow all over us and expecting us to clean it up. And I'm just not going to do it anymore. So there's now, how much did I say? Did I say 25? A 50% tariff. 75. Do I hear 100? Do I go 100? Do anybody 100? Do I 100? How many 100? Going once. Going twice. 125% tariff on snow. That's kind of how I feel tariffs actually work, to be completely honest with you. I am not going to deal with this anymore. Now, here's why. Let me explain. So if you joined us on last week's episode here at Sage Outcast Show, I was stuck out in the middle of the street, flagging down plow trucks. Well, I actually wasn't in the middle of the street. I was on my side of the street, flagging down plow trucks in the mid-weeds of the morning. In the weeds of the morning. Because I did not have, my tractor is not working because there's a short someplace, and although I am 5'8", the tractor is also a very small tractor, so there's a short someplace and I can't get started. So, I did not notice, this is how my day started, I think yesterday, because I knew the storm was coming and I had to reach out to the plow guy and say, hey, put me on the plow list, come plow my driveway so that I can, get deliveries and make it to the hospital after I, have a panic attack and anxiety and all this stuff from all the snow and shoveling and have a heart attack. Okay. So he said, fine. So when I was looking at my phone, and if you remember, I ended up reaching out to the construction company down the street that basically said, yeah, we're not taking on any new residential plow driveways or anything. We're not doing that. We're way too busy for the peeps like you, the little people. So, but she did say, I'll text you some other people. And I knew one person already. It was a mechanic down there. So after that, now remember, the reason that I reached out to her was one of her plow trucks, the construction company down the road, one of her plow trucks drove by, and I'm like, hey, you guys plow driveway? He's like, I don't know. I do the Navy base. I'm like, all right, I'll call down there. So I did not notice this message, and because if I would have noticed it at the time that I was very upset about the plowing situation, there would have been a completely different result to this message. But I got a message on there that says, hey, Danny told me you were standing out in the middle of the street with a headlamp on. Please don't do that. Wait. Now, remember, this came from the construction company that was not taking on any new people for residential plowing. And Danny must have been the driver. All right. So I'll get to the Trump stuff soon. Anyway, so Danny must have been the driver that I talked to. Now, remember, it said, hey, Danny told me you were standing in the middle of the street with a headlamp on. Please don't do that. Uh-huh. Yeah. So I had two options to go with this. I could do the long troll, or I could do the short troll. Because it is 100% a please troll me text message. I mean, think about that. No relation. Not my mommy. I'm 50 years old. I pretty much understand how cars and traffic work at this point in my life. Okay? I'm not chasing, a ball into the street. Well, yeah, I still do that. Either way, I'm not doing that. I've got a headlamp on. Now, understand here in Maine, we don't really have sidewalks. Well, not where I live. So if you wanted to run or something in the morning, you wear a vest and you wear one of those blinking headlamps that says, hey, I'm a person, don't run me over. Matter of fact, most of us wear orange all the time because we're afraid of getting shot the minute we, step onto the sidewalk or step onto the side of the road where there's trees because, we might be a deer. It's weird, I know. Either way, you don't wander around even your own property not wearing orange during hunting season in the state of Maine unless you're just looking for it, right? All right, either way. So I thought to myself, which route do I want to go down? I could go down the short troll or I could go down the long troll. Now, let me give you two options in case this situation ever happens to you, because it just might. It just might. I am not the only one here that can experience things like this. Probably am. Okay. The short troll would be something like, sorry, we are no longer taking applications to the Karen University at this time. And if there's an opening, we will let you know. That's the short troll. The old Karen University troll, right? Because she definitely 100% was going down that road. right? Now, the other troll, the long troll, which is kind of more of the YouTube internet troll, was something like this. My statement was, Danny said that? When? I have no idea who Danny is, right? And then you wait for the reply. Yesterday, when you were looking to get the streets plowed. I was looking to get the streets plowed? My driveway plowed? What did Danny say exactly? He said what I just told you he said, which was what? That you were standing in the middle of the street with a headlamp. Please don't do that. Don't do what? Don't ask for somebody to plow the driveway? No. Don't stand in the street with a headlamp. Whose street? What are you talking about? Who's Danny? And what have you done with my wife? I will pay. I've already paid Danny the ransom. Bring her back. Something like that. For some odd reason, it said don't contact me anymore. I don't know why. I don't know what happened. But that's the route I chose to go down. And there was a couple other stuff in there. I can't remember it exactly. I should have saved it. But I don't know. This is probably why nobody plows the driveways or mows the lawns or comes up to the house or helps us in any shape or way or form. But I could be wrong. Maybe it's them, not me. No, it's most definitely me. It's probably me. Sometimes it's me, I think. Sometimes it's me. All right. Now that you kind of know the way it works up here in pre-Canada, I'm going to move on. So today, last night I went outside, and of course we had like 50-mile-an-hour winds, we had snow blowing, and I run pellet stoves. So a pellet stove has a short exhaust. It's not like a wood stove that, it's got a short exhaust, and it's got a fan that blows out the exhaust. And you hope to God that the wind isn't blowing directly in, because if it is, you get more smoke on the inside, and you got to turn it off. Well, what do you think happened to me up here in Maine? That is right. The wind blew directly into the pellet stove vent, and I had to turn the pellet stove off. So I woke up this morning, and I don't know, it was like 52 degrees downstairs, which that's only about 5 degrees lower than normal, to be completely honest, because I can't stand the hot temperatures. But I had to go outside this morning, and I had this, last night, me and my wife had a conversation, and yes, she was right, and I was wrong. I will admit it. I'm a big enough man to admit when I am wrong. My wife basically told me that FedEx was not going to come and pick up the packages and deliver my packages, which I need for the new job I'm starting. So it wasn't that bad. I would have drove in it, but of course FedEx didn't do that. So I had the package out there all day to bring package in. So last night I went out, and of course I'm shoveling, I don't even know, 2 or 3 foot. Let's see, I'm 5 foot. So I'm going to say 3 foot worth of snow drifts blocking the door that I couldn't even get outside. So you do the old snow push. You take the door and you go until eventually you get out enough that you can get out there and shovel. And I went out there about, 10 o'clock at night and shoveled at least a doorway. And then, of course, I said, hey, I think they're going to pick up the package today because the sun's shining and the snow's not blowing. And, of course, my wife says, well, And I said, they plowed the driveway. We plowed the driveway. I didn't have to stand out in the middle of the street with the spotlight on. Construction company, I hope you heard that. Also. So I basically went out there and shoveled the drive. They plowed the driveway. Then my wife says, hey, it's great that they plowed, but is there a path from the back door to where they plowed? No, there's not. So I had to go out there and shovel 3 foot of snow so that they could have a path to deliver my packages. Wimps. All right. So I did not have a heart attack yet, and I went out there and shoveled the snow. So I want to let you know a couple things. You ever shovel snow and then you hit the freaking crack in the concrete that you didn't see was there, and it freaking just about jabs the shovel into your chest? No, my producer doesn't know any of this because he's from weird Florida, now lives in Texas. Only snow he's ever seen is, well, we won't talk about that. Either way, I went out there and shoveled the snow, so I'm done. I'm done with snow, and if tariffs work, I should be able to tariff away the snow, according to Trump. So that's basically what I got going on. That was my, what are you doing down there? That's my kid. That's what I was basically been doing all day. All right. Now you know what it's like in the day of the life of a Mainer. Let's move on. All right. So, a couple things going on I want to definitely talk about that is actually trucking related. We're going to get back into trucking related stuff if I can find all of my freight. There they are. Let's take a look at what we got here with the Sage Market update. I get this basically every Monday, so I do a show on Tuesdays. Yes, Tuesdays. So markets are definitely looking a little better in regards to freight, right? So freight used to be in the green. So if you're in trucking, now we can talk a little bit of trucking. Also, if you're just interested in the economy, we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I'll turn the phones on here in a minute, but not right now. So stop calling me. Because I can tell that if you keep that number right there, it's going to 100% be a troll. All right. Also, I called into the radio. I called into XM radio as a caller this time, just to try to change things up. They knew it was me, though. So I called into the XM radio as a long-time listener, first-time caller. And I'm going to talk about that, too. I spoke with Rob Carpenter, which hoping to have. I'll probably have him on a little sometime as a guest. But okay, let's talk about freight. Okay, markets are definitely coming up a little bit, right? So obviously we were in the green down here at the soft for the longest time. Now, what that means kind of is bad. Way too many trucks, not enough loads. Well, capacity, not loads, but capacity is shrinking. A lot of trucking companies are leaving the market. Okay, now. We're going to talk a little bit about how to protect yourself against that. I've got a couple of videos and stuff, but that has to do with a lot of things. One, trucking companies are just going out of business. They don't see any, they're looking at the future and they're like, yeah, this might not work. I can't hold on until 2027. Or you have a lot of people that are basically saying, hey, we're going to get rid of our English speaking drivers, or non-domiciled drivers are falling off, or there's also, we'll talk a little bit about chameleon carriers and things like that. But there's just a lot of capacity leaving the market for various reasons. So this has gone from green to yellow. Now also we have van freight, which is kind of creeping up, which that's the one that we kind of have the most problem with because there's capacity in van also, even though it's 53-foot van, you're also dealing with box trucks and cargo vans in some manner because they do haul the same type of freight that you haul in van freight. All right. Reefer market's definitely going up. That could be freeze protect or keeping things refrigerated. And flatbed. Flatbed is definitely becoming a tightening market. Now, reasoning for that is there's definitely not as many people entering the market in the flatbed because of securement, issues like that. Also, we are, as freight brokers, as I am, we're looking at dealing more when it comes to flatbed market. We're requiring a lot more things. Like my carriers cannot leave until they send me a picture of how they secured the freight and things like that. So we're starting to see a lot tighter markets. And also we have AI and we have different aspects of things that are being built that is basically bringing in the flatbed market first. All right. Consumer buying is more like van stuff. Any type of construction, like the AI construction, the AI boom is a big one. So if capacity leaves the market, and also you're going to start to get people, not right now, but eventually they're going to leave the flatbed market and go to the reefer market because you're going to have produce season. So think about that, because if we're already at a tight flatbed market, once we hit the produce season, that's going to tighten up a lot. So we're gonna keep an eye on that. All right, these are rates. We're looking at about $1.43 for van, $2.71 for flatbed, and $2.90 for reefer. That is your national spot market rates. All right, we got squiggly lines here. A bunch of squiggly lines. Hang on. Does that work? Yeah, there it is. So below is the truckload rejection index. The higher the number, the tighter the market. The key takeaway here is the available capacity is slightly tighter at the point of 2026. So we're seeing tighter market in 2026 than we did in 2025. Now, again, there's a lot of aspects to that. I think in 2025, there's a lot of carriers that said, hey, this is going to be a great year. Even Freight Waves came out and said this is going to be a great year. There's going to be a boom in freight. And that was Craig Fuller that came out. Now, I disagreed with him. And But now I think you're starting to see a lot of carriers that are saying, hey, I don't know if I can hang on another year, or things like that. That's starting to happen. Now, there's some positives to that, to be honest, if you want, because there's always positives when there are negatives. One, you're going to see a bunch of equipment that's going to probably end up being cheaper. Two, if there's ever a time for carriers to start to look at their compliance and start to look at different aspects for insurance, that's something you definitely want to look at. And I'm not just saying it because I'm a licensed insurance agent, but I'm working on some things right now to in the new job, the role that I'm going to be filling at the new company, at making sure that we can optimize your insurance and your compliance to get the best rates from either brokers and insurance people. All right. This one is the truck stop average for areas for pricing. All right, which is kind of, I think this is going to be van, right? Yeah, this is van freight, which I don't, not to, you door swingers, I don't know what to tell you. You know, you're going to have to step up and haul real freight. Either tanker, that's only because we have the truck whopper driver in here. Truck diver, whopper, I don't know, Burger King. All right, also, spot load. So right now we are at about the 5-year average for spot freight, okay? Which 5 years is kind of a mixed bag. We had real high for COVID, and then we dropped down. So being at the 5-year average for freight, it's hard to say if that's kind of good or bad right now, right? Because we had I don't know, a year, maybe a year and a half of good numbers, and then all of a sudden we had 4 years of bad numbers. So the 5-year average to me, although people are looking at that and seeing that, if you take the average of numbers, now we got to do a little mathing. We don't, because some people have come to me and said, look, the 5-year average is great. Well, do you know how an average works? An average is the low and the high put together. We kind of, you figure that out. Anyways, Google it. Research it. Research average. All right. We're not going to talk about this. Talk about these real quick. Okay. Winter storm northeast, heavy snow and high winds. 7 states declare a state of emergency. The northeast ports shut down, more than 571 customers and without power. I am with power, as you can tell, but yesterday I got no freight delivered. So my FedEx didn't deliver, UPS didn't deliver, nobody delivered up here. So obviously winter storms are going to affect your freight, so be advised if you're heading up this way. Yes, we got to about 2 foot of snow. Is it cleared? Yeah, because we're good at clearing snow compared to, I don't know, Tennessee or Texas. But that is definitely, keep an eye on that. Okay. Based on a federal audit, the U.S. Department of Transportation has issued a 30-day ultimatum to the state of Illinois to revoke commercial truck license issued illegally to non-citizens or risk losing $128 million of federal highway. Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of in favor of this, to be completely honest. If you're illegal, and I mean illegal, yeah, I don't think you should have a driver's license. Or if you have a driver's license that technically your visa ended, but your driver's license is still valid, yeah, that you need to get that fixed. The same way a truck driver gets their medical card fixed or their hazmat fixed, so on, so on, so on. Supreme Court ruled that the White House exceeded the authority to impose tariffs, and we're going to talk about that, under a national emergency statute. The decision strikes down tariffs, well, not really, imposed using the emergency authority while leaving in place other enacted under separate trade laws, such as those covering steel and aluminum. Aha! We're going to talk about that, and if you are in trucking, you're going to want to pay attention to this, because we might have a predicament coming up here in July, just so you know, and I'll explain that in a minute. Let's see, Department of Transportation announced the removal of certifications for more than 550 U.S. commercial driving schools and train truckers and bus drivers, 190 schools voluntarily removed themselves from the National Registry upon learning about the pending investigations. That's a good thing. I am 100% more in favor of going after truck driving schools because that's where your problem stems from. We have a serious driver trainer problem. I don't like the way Prime Trucking does it. It's their company, but I don't like the way they do it. They get a truck driver pretty fresh out of school and they make him team drive. I didn't do that. I think that is one of the things that we are 100% is a safety issue. because the better trained you are, the better driver you're going to be. When I came out of school, I went to Green Bay, Wisconsin. I already had my B license, but I went to Green Bay, Wisconsin, and I went up there to basically, what is this? $1 worth 6 cents. We might have to get rid of reasonable. I basically went to Green Bay, Wisconsin. Yeah, my kitten is feeling much better as she jumps up. This is my Maine Coon kitten. There you go. You're famous now. All right. Went to Green Bay, Wisconsin. Got trained again to get my Class A. Because I already had my permit for my Class A and I already had my Class B. Went out with a trainer. The trainer, he did not sleep. He didn't sleep. Like he had to be in the jump seat while I drove. I had to be in the jump seat while he drove. We were both either on duty, not driving, or driving. So there was no team driving, and that lasted, I think, 3 months. After that, I went back, took my road test, passed, and then I was supposed to team drive with somebody from my class. So we knew we were going to team drive together. We got set up. We team drive. I did it for like a month, and I couldn't sleep while team driving. And I just told them I don't feel I'm safe. I can't sleep. So they basically said, no problem. And they said, we'll get you your own truck. And then they got me my own truck, and I went out and started driving my own truck. And then I ran like Buffalo to Quebec. But right now they don't do that. Oh, God. Who is my, hang on. Let me fix this problem right now. Oh, no, I'll leave him. Okay, I'll leave him. Never mind. I'll leave him for now. Let him get there. All right. So I do believe that the truck driving schools are a huge problem. The same as if you're driving for a mega carrier and things like that. I think we need a lot more training, a lot more time behind the wheel and understanding than anything else. But anyways, that's just me. But I'm definitely in favor of the school things. All right, we're going to talk about this. Cartel violence. One of the things I was showing you was the cartel violence over there in Mexico. Now, this could be a predicament. So cartel violence is disrupting Mexico's freight. The port of, I don't have a chance. That's not actually what it really says. But, in the name of Jesus. All right, let me move on. The port of Manizalio, which handles 45% of container volume, had closed and then reportedly reopened while the road blockages and closure are in effect transit in the country. That's going to be a problem. We're going to talk about that separately. All right. Teamsters, anybody? I'm not going to cover the Teamsters UPS thing. Lots of people covering that. White House releases the map or plan this month to tout as a comprehensive national strategy to rebuild and expand shipbuilding. Okay, we're going to get that. All right. That's pretty much, we're good there. We are good there. I will close this one out. Maybe. No, I won't, because it's stuck because it was on the screen. All right, now, we're going to talk a little bit about this right here. So, do I want to do this? Nope, we're not going to do that yet. Let's move this to... Yeah, we can actually talk about that. All right, so we all saw the tariff situation here, and let's play this one here. This is Justin Wolfers, and he is an economist who also teaches at, I believe, University of Michigan. We're going to talk a little bit about tariffs. It's about 4 minutes. I'll slow it down.
In public policy at the University of Michigan. I think to say this is a mess, Justin, is an understatement. So now you have the president saying he's going to implement
Yeah, I listen on everything on 2 speed, so I got to slow it down.
new tariffs, calling for a worldwide 15% tariff. I'm just wondering, given the Supreme Court ruling, can he do that, or is that just a lot of talk? And what would be impacted this time if these tariffs go into effect?
Yeah, so it is a mess. You know, we've had 5 different tariff regimes in a 25-hour period. If you ask me what the tariff rate is,
5 different tariffs in like 5 days. That's a problem. And this is the other thing too we'll talk about in a minute. Because remember, trucking likes consistency, business likes consistency. I mean, that's what investors like, consistency and things like that.
to start by asking you what time it is. It's ridiculous. Look, so what the Supreme Court struck down was what we call the Emergency Powers Act tariffs, which is basically any time the president pointed at a country and said, I'm putting a tariff on you, China, Canada, Australia, the European Union. That got struck down.
No, let me turn the phones on. Let me find the phones first, actually. Doobie-doo. All right, let me turn the phones on. I already blocked that guy because I'm not dealing with that. I'm not dealing with that guy. All right.
What the president then came back with is a new power based on...
Sonia.
His number, 856-600-4654, Sage Outcast.
Thank you, Sonia.
on a balance of payments crisis. This new power allows him to raise tariffs as high as 15%. He's hit that ceiling. He initially said 10%, he went to 15%. Here's the important thing. He's only allowed to do that for 150 days and then has to go back to Congress to get it reauthorized. Congress is not going to reauthorize.
All right, so basically Donald Trump has a right to raise tariffs at 15% under trade, I think the 301, which is usually used for intellectual property, and then the 122 tariffs, which is normally as not a trade imbalance, but a trade debt, like you owe us money.
Authorize it. So this is purely a stopgap measure. It saves face, but it doesn't save any economic benefits. Why is that? Because if a permanent tariff is a bad idea, guess what? A temporary tariff is actually even worse.
Why is that?
Because
businesses can't plan?
Exactly. And worse than that, right? So you could call China and say, I demand this, that, and the other. And China could say, but your tariffs are going away in 150 days. You don't have any extra leverage out of that. I'm not going to build a new factory in America based on a tariff that will be gone before I've poured the concrete on it. So we're going to get
Yes. So basically, a tariff that only lasts 150 days, they're basically saying, hey, why would we bring manufacturing back to the United States? Again, this isn't happening, but why would we bring manufacturing back to the United States in a tariff that's going to be gone because Congress would have to vote it in, and they're not going to do that right before the midterms. They're not going to vote on these tariffs. Why would they do that?
the cost of the tariffs, none of the benefits whatsoever.
Where does the decision from the Supreme Court leave those previously negotiated framework trade agreements and also the international credibility of the United States now?
Yeah, so it's been a big question, what happens to those agreements? And actually, it's a very funny answer. There basically aren't any agreements. What happened through that whole period, remember 90 deals in 90 days, is Trump would call someone into the Oval Office, you know, the Prime Minister of some country, and they would meet behind closed doors, and they would come out and they'd hold up a big billboard that had a whole lot of bullet points and say, this is happening and that's happening and so on. But I then did that, and that would make the papers the next day.
Now, this is very important. We don't have any signed trade deals, like signed, like in paper. We have a lot of handshakes. We have a lot of things that are, things that, well, we'll do it. The EU has to vote theirs in, so they can't just implement a trade deal because they say so. That actually gets voted in by their parliament, so they have not voted that in yet. So we're still kind of waiting on that.
I then do the next part of the homework, which is to say, did that lead to an actual deal, a real agreement? Can I see signatures on anything here? And in almost every case, there was nothing ever signed. This whole thing was much more reality TV than it was real economics. And so you could say to me, what's happened to those agreements? Well, first of all, Trump himself breached many of them because he'd signed the agreement, or he didn't sign it, he'd announced the agreement and then add new tariffs. And the second thing is, there's not really an agreement there anyway. So not much is going to change. No one had been trusting us.
Now, the State of the Union is tonight, and I'm not going to watch it. I'll get the recap. Because I already kind of know what he's going to say. We're the hottest country. We were trash. We were the worst country. We're the poorest country. Now we're the hottest country. We made all this money with tariffs. They got rid of it. We've ended immigration. The economy's coming back.
All the bad stuff's Biden's fault.
All the bad stuff. Oh, yeah, I can just speed this up. Bad stuff, Biden. Good stuff, me. Done.
They're still not going to be trusting us.
We did see the value of the dollar drop this morning in the face of this tariff confusion. How will that slip affect wallets of everyday Americans, will it?
Yeah, so when the dollar falls in value, that then means it takes more of our dollars to buy stuff from abroad.
Again, I really don't care who the president is at this point. I care about policies.
So if you want to put this in the context of affordability and affording your everyday groceries and the things you buy from abroad, everything from abroad just got a little bit more expensive. Today's movement is interesting, but actually if you look at what's happened throughout the Trump presidency so far, the value of the dollar has fallen quite substantially. And that is one of the reasons why everything costs a little more than perhaps it feels like it should.
Sigh. That's all we can do at the moment. Lots out of our control.
And I actually believe that even if you are a Trump supporter, I actually believe that a lot of people are now realizing that the tariff situation is not good. Like you're looking at your electric bills, you're looking at your food bills, you're looking at your price of everything. And although gas has gone down, that's a completely different thing. Everything else does seem to be going up. Food, energy, stuff like that. Healthcare. And so I do believe that even you voted for Trump, that's fine. But I do believe that you're looking at the economy right now and saying, yeah, this ain't going the way I thought it was going to go. Now, we did hear that he was going to put a 15% tariff on everybody. That was a Saturday morning tweet saying, I've changed my mind. I'm not going to go to 15%. Well, nobody informed U.S. Customs and Border Patrol because they still have it as 10%. So as of right now, the proposed message has provided the guidance regarding the February 2026 presidential proclamation imposing a temporary import surcharge to address fundamental international payment problems, which we don't have, issued pursuant of the Section 122 of the Act of 1974. So we don't have payment problems right now with everything. Just because if you believe you were being taken advantage of, which we're not, that's not a payment problem. So this one technically might also be considered illegal. just so you know. But they'd have to fight that out. Which imposed an additional 10% duty on imported articles of every country, everybody, for 150 days unless specifically exempt. So even though he said 15% and people are saying 15%, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, it seems to be saying that it's going to be 10%. Maybe that'll change. Maybe they didn't get the memo. But right now it looks like we're at a 10% tariff going forward as of right now, not the 15. Now that could change in a day or two once somebody says, "Hey, you know, we're only at 10%. You want us to bump it up?" That could change. Now, we're going to kind of cover this right here. I like this guy too. This is clear value tax.
Video. I want to tell you about the current situation regarding President Trump's tariffs. So they're confusing. I'm going to simplify it for you, and you're going to want to hear this.
We're going to simplify
probably
this.
Not what you think. And let me begin with a quick.
Now remember, tariff is something we pay. We're paying right now. 90% of the tariffs are being paid by the U.S. importer. We're importing that. Problem with this is that affects a lot of aspects of things. We get a lot of raw materials. We get a lot of things from other countries. We do the final production here. Like if what they're doing over in other countries might be making the door handle. What we do over here is sell the car. We do the finished product, which is there's more money in the finished product than in the door handle. So this affects a lot of aspects of freight in vans, because that's coming over there. Now you put that on top of what's going on in Mexico, and we have some interruptions going on. But I'm going to play this, and then we'll talk about the Mexico thing.
Recap, so this is not going to take a long time. On Friday, February 20th, the Supreme Court struck down the majority of President Trump's tariffs. Essentially, they are unconstitutional, they're illegal, and now they no longer apply. So President Trump
We also have a whole bunch of companies suing, not countries, but a whole bunch of U.S. companies, Costco's, suing the United States to get their refunds. They want their money back. So now they're suing the United States.
Justified his tariffs by using the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, the IEEPA. So this was about 70% of the tariffs that he imposed. President Trump was arguing that the United States of America was under a foreign threat, which allowed him to justly use the IEEPA. And he said that the foreign threats was the influx of foreign drugs and trade deficits, which means that Americans are importing more than we're exporting. So he said that this was a public health crisis regarding the drugs, and that the trade deficit was hollowing out the American manufacturing sector, affecting critical supply chains. And the Supreme Court voted 6-3 against President Trump. The decision was that the IEEPA does not authorize President Trump to impose tariffs. And the ruling proceeded to say, in IEEPA's half-century of existence, no president has invoked the statute to impose any tariffs, let alone tariffs of this magnitude and scope. They also said that.
Now, what is that actually for? What was the International Emergency Economic Act for? Basically, the best way to understand this is, let's say we went to war with China. The war with China. The president could come in and sanction or embargo all products going to China or from China. He could just say, nope, stop trading with them. Because that way we're not selling them anything and they're not selling us anything. We would during times of war. That's what it basically was. So it didn't allow him to put a tariff on anything. What it did was he could stop all trade. He could basically tell you, your company, you're not going to trade with that country, because right now this is an emergency and we are sanctioning or embargoing all of that. And he even said this during his speech. Like he said, I can do this and I can do this, but I can't charge money. Because Congress is the one that's in charge of taxes. And that's what we want, right? We don't want a president to, just Jesus Christ. Because you guys mad? Bernie Sanders might come in and put 150% tariffs on everybody, and the next thing you know, he loves it. But we don't want that. We do want the president to be able to act quickly, because he's supposed to act quickly where Congress is supposed to act slowly, which they're doing a hell of a good job acting slowly. Basically, almost doing nothing. The president to basically be able to come in and say, stop trading with that country. We are, we're done with them.
There's a lack of historical precedence, and the tariffs extend beyond the president's legitimate reach. Now, I just want to tell you about the situation before we proceed to talk about how President Trump responded and the new tariffs. But listen, ultimately, the tariffs under the IEEPA were illegal, and there's going to be refunds handed out. Justice Kavanaugh wrote that the United States may be required to refund billions of dollars to importers who paid the IEEPA tariffs, even though some importers may have already passed on the costs to consumers. So I just want you to make no mistake. I want this to be crystal clear that you and I will not be receiving the tariff refunds. It's the big corporations that...
Right. This money doesn't come back to us. They're suing to get their money back, even though they might have charged us higher prices. Now, here's the problem with that. I'll be straight up with you. Some companies, embargo. Yep, he has an embargo power. Some companies might have been not so much affected by the tariffs, but they're still going to say they were, and they're still going to charge us money. I'm just letting you know that businesses do business stuff.
You know, it's them that's going to be receiving the refunds, when in reality...
And the phones are on, right, Sonia?
His number, 856-600-4654, Sage Outcast.
Kind of creepy that she's right behind me like that, right? Kind of creepy? I think it's creepy.
That's money that was coming from you and me. So essentially, I don't know how else to put this. Like, they ripped us off. This was robbery in plain sight. Currently, about 2,000 companies have lawsuits suing for their tariff refunds. It's going to be about $140 billion, and it's in all industries. And you can take a look at the list. Prada, Staples, J.Crew, Dole Fresh Fruit Company, GoPro, Barnes & Nobles, Goodyear Tire, Costco, Toyota, Revlon, etc. 2,000 big corporations and businesses.
Now I'm going to explain how this is going to affect logistics. Like right now, well, let's finish.
You know, the government made...
Here's all the companies that were suing, right? All these companies want their money back. Now, it's going to take time, and even the president said it could take up to 5 years to get this money back, and that's fine. It is what it is.
Subsidize them. The rich got richer, even if it wasn't intentional. I mean, that's what...
Also, if you do me a favor, hit the like, subscribe to the channel. That would be fantastic. I've had a couple reds, which has knocked me out of the algorithms. That'd be great if you would do that for me.
Happened, isn't it? You know, thanks a lot. Now, I just want to say, what did I...
Also, we're still shouting out for the legendary TC Boggs. That would be at TC Boggs, whatever. And we'd like to have him on the show. I'd love to be able to debate somebody who says that he has no problem debating other people. But he seems to have blocked me. I don't know why that is. I mean, it's not like I stood in the middle of the street asking him to plow my driveway. But I am looking for him, and it's a respectable debate. He seems like a highly educated person. I'd like for him to explain a couple things. One, nowhere in the Epstein files did Donald Trump actually turn Epstein in any way, shape, or form. He called after he was already captured and said, hey, glad you arrested that guy. We all knew it was happening. So actually, he knew it was happening and didn't turn him in. And two, I'd like to see how tariffs are actually working, because all metrics say they're not.
I tell you, right after the Supreme Court decision was released, I said...
debate you because you're always out of context, Sage.
Well, I'm always out of context. Always out of context.
President Trump stayed silence, which was uncharacteristic of him. And I told you explicitly before he reacted, before he said anything, I said that he's not going to give up on the tariffs and that he's going to try to use a different alternative to keep on tariffing. But I told you that they chose, like the administration chose the IEEPA excuse because that was the one with the strongest case, and that he would try an alternative excuse, but it's going to be more flimsy. Like, did I not? Okay, so let's see how that played out. First, President Trump expressed himself, of course. He wrote, those members of the Supreme Court who voted against our very acceptable and proper methods of tariffs should be ashamed of themselves. And then President Trump wrote, it is my great honor to have just signed a global 10% tariff on all countries, which will be effective almost immediately. Okay, so here's what's going on. The tariffs under the IEEPA are illegal, and he can't do them anymore, but he's not giving up. So the IEEPA tariffs are gone, but they're immediately being replaced by new tariffs. Therefore, the tariffs are not gone. Of course, some of the tariff rates on certain countries or products are going to be different, but overall, the tariffs are still going to be here. And President Trump explains the situation here. Today, I will sign an order to impose a 10% global tariff under Section 122, over and above our normal tariffs. Okay, so the normal tariffs that he's referring to, these were the tariffs that were not struck down by the Supreme Court.
Right. There are some tariffs out there that Congress did vote on, that we do have we do have trade agreements with, and things like that. So like Canada right now, we're going to talk about that. Canada and Mexico, we're going to talk about this next, has it used to be NAFTA, but then it turned into the United States, Mexico, and Canada trade agreement. But we're going to talk about that because that is up for renewal on July 1st.
These are the ones that were outside the IEEPA. But later, President Trump went on to clarify that certain tariffs are not going to stack, according to their statement on February 20th. And President Trump said that we're also initiating several Section 301 and other investigations. So this is the ability to tariff under another reason, which it's going to be very important, and I'm going to explain that in a minute. And then shortly after, President Trump decided to raise this new tariff from 10% to 15%. Okay, so this new tariff, which is now in play, is a global 15% tariff. And here's what we know. President Trump cannot tariff under the IEEPA. So now he's going to go with Section 122 of 1974's Trade Act. Okay, Section 122 allows the president to address large and serious balance of payments deficits with tariffs of up to 15% for 150 days. Okay, so President Trump is arguing that the trade deficit qualifies for a balance of payments deficits. So you have to understand that a trade deficit is not the same thing as a payments deficit. And unlike the IEEPA, Section 122 says that tariffs under this rule cannot be country specific. So that's why he has to apply a tariff, like a global tariff against basically all imports. So it's just like a blanket tariff. Okay, so President Trump cannot tariff under the IEEPA, right? So he's going to go with Plan B, Section 122. However, trade experts are saying that this is going to turn out to be unconstitutional as well. They're saying that a balance of payments deficit is not the same thing as a trade deficit.
Correct.
So you cannot have a balance of payments deficit if you have a flexible exchange rates, which is how the US operates. And I just want to explain to you the situation like this. This is probably the easiest way to do it. Before, people in other countries could exchange their US dollars for gold. It was a fixed system.
Right, that was fixed, okay? That's why this system kind of went obsolete after the old getting off the gold standard. This 122, it's still on the books. We don't, because a lot of times we don't get rid of this stuff, but it's obsolete because we're no longer fixed to anything. We're no longer fixed to gold.
And other countries were rushing to turn in their dollars for gold, and they were draining our vaults.
Right. So France came in and said, you owe us money. We want all of your gold instead of money. And Nixon basically said, denied. We're going off the gold standard. Jesus Christ.
But right now, we don't have a fixed system, and the dollar is not pegged to anything. It's a fiat currency with a flexible exchange rates. So you can have a trade deficit, but you can't have a payments deficit in that type of situation.
Correct. So it's not even doable anymore. They're using a trade rule that is old and obsolete because we're no longer on the gold standard. So then again, I don't even know how their people came up with this, that they're going to use this, but it's not, which is a good thing, to be completely honest. Although I know there's chaos in the system, we need to get to stability. We need to stabilize how we're doing things.
Essentially, this section of the 1974 Trade Act, which took years to draft up, was rendered obsolete when Nixon took us off the gold standard in 1971. And there is no payments deficit because foreign countries, they take their US dollars and they reinvest it back into the US, such as the US Treasury market, the US stock markets, and US real estate. Okay, so what does all this mean? Most likely, these new 15% tariffs are going to be ruled illegal. And the same thing's going to happen. You and me, we're going to continue to get taxed an extra 15%. And the legal system, they're going to rule it illegal, and then the corporations are going to get their refunds, which is really our money. But this whole process may take another 1 year. But if President Trump knows that tariffs under Section 122 will fail in a matter of time, then why is he doing this anyways? And the answer is, it's because he's using these new 15% tariffs to buy time. That's the truth. It's because
Correct. He's just buying time.
End goal is that he wants to use Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974. Okay, so he can legally impose tariffs under Section 301 if he investigates other countries like their trade practices and they conclude that their trade practices are discriminatory and unfair. And honestly, I'll tell you that in a lot of cases, such as if you look at China, they would qualify as unfair trade practices, like their dumping practices.
Yes, because they will manipulate their money.
So this is when a country intentionally floods like a huge supply of any product into the US in order to drive down prices in an attempt to wipe out US businesses, US producers. And then, okay, if they do that, they flood our markets with cheap product, then, okay, the US producers, they're going to go bankrupt. And after the US producers are bankrupt, then the Chinese, with their inventory, with their products, they're going to raise their prices here in the US. And then there's not going to be anything that we can do about it because our US producers all went out of business.
Right. Now, what would the best thing would have been, hey, China, you're going to get tariffed, but hey, Canada and Mexico, you're not. I want stuff to be produced in Canada or Mexico or EU. Someplace that they couldn't dump all these products on us, that would have been fair. But to tariff everybody is just chaos.
So when they're dumping their product into our country, they're usually doing this at a loss, but they're playing the long game.
True.
So in many cases, tariffs would be legal under Section 301. However, President Trump needs to launch investigation.
Yeah, so there has to be an investigation. Also, 301 is also used for intellectual property. So if intellectual property, so let's say we made chips here, and all of a sudden they end up in China. China then steals that chip technology and sells those chips back to us for cheaper rate than we do them here. They stole our intellectual property, okay? Which means, hey, those are our exact chips that you're just making cheaper and then selling them back to us. A 301 investigation would be opened. They would take a look at the chips. They'd take a look at all this. They'd take a look what happened. They'd say, no. We're going to tariff those chips because that way the American one is now competitive with the ones that you stole. So 301 is also used for that type of situation, intellectual property.
And studies, and that's going to take many months. And he doesn't want to wait, so he's using Section 122 right now to continue tariffing, and it's basically bridging the gap until a 301 investigation.
And I'm all for a 301 investigation with 301 tariffs, 100%. You steal our intellectual property, then you try selling it back to us? Hell no.
Are complete. So he's buying time with Section 122. Listen, I just want to say that the first tariff video that I made, this was probably 10, 11 months ago, and I said that what President Trump was doing was illegal, and it took me 1 year to be proven correct. And I'm telling you right now that these tariffs under Section 122, they're going to be illegal, and it might take another year for me to be proven correct. And I just want to say that these tariffs, they're not going to fix our trade deficit, they're not going to fix our budget. What happened to the argument, the tariffs, they're going to replace the income tax? Well, yeah, how did that work out? Did you do your tax return this year? How's it going?
It's not
Anyways, the tariffs are just tax. That's all that it is, and they're taxing us. And now it's crazy because the corporations, they're getting our money, like it goes directly to them, essentially. Anyways, please subscribe. Thank you for the support.
All right, that is the gist. Let me see here. I am not going to do... let me do this one real quick first. We just need the first part of this one.
What's happening in the economy in both the USA and the rest of the world, in fact, because I want to provide you with an update as to what's happening with the tariffs imposed by Donald Trump. If you've been following the channel or even the mainstream news, by these tariffs. Now, in response to that news, Donald Trump, who was very annoyed by it and called globally, however, within hours, he posted this onto...
Yep, he posted 15%.
Within the US percent permissible globally, but only for a maximum of 150 days.
Okay, here we go.
And that includes...
I should have keyed this up. I blame my producers.
Against what Donald Trump said originally, because he was saying that all of the companies...
I was out shoveling snow again. I'm tariffing the snow.
Eating them. But in today's video, I wanted to just look at the impact of this new 15% tariff on the biggest trading relationships that the USA has. So if we have a look at this chart, it shows the countries that exported the most to the USA in the 12 months to December 25. These figures come from the official Fed data that's been published.
Okay, this is from the Fed data. The countries that have imported the most, which would be the ones that we're getting. Now, this is really important, and this is where I want you guys to pay attention. This is the learning experience of the show. This is where you most likely you would put your head down on your desk and fall asleep. Okay, just giving you a heads up. All right. Right now, the countries that have imported the most into the United States has been Mexico, number one. Mexico, number one. Now, we have a free trade agreement with Mexico. So that's why I don't know why Donald Trump is thinking they're taking advantage of us, because he negotiated that free trade agreement, and Mexico's number one. Now, Mexico's now in chaos in regards to drug cartels and stuff like that's going on. So that could be a problem with our trade. So be advised with that one. Be advised with that one. If you're down there in Texas, if you're picking up at Laredo or Brownsville or any of these places, realize that if you're heading that way thinking you're going to get great freight coming out, there's chaos happening down there. That might affect you, especially if you're in your van. Okay. Not that you go into Canada, but the stuff that's coming back over into Canada and being cross-docked, that might slow up. Okay? Ports and stuff. The second one is Canada. So it's Mexico, then Canada. Now remember, for some odd reason, Donald Trump, in a smart move, said, we probably shouldn't be working solely with China so much. We'd have all of our eggs in one basket because those rat bastards are, not our friends. And he basically started to decouple, and we do this in logistics. That's the term, decouple. Not cancel, not work with them at all, but decouple, pull away from them, and started working with other countries that are more on our same level when it comes to ideology, okay? Canada and Mexico being definitely one. Canada and Mexico closest, you can secure that. If there's ever a problem, you don't have to protect ships with your Navy. You could just, they're in the same hemisphere. So we negotiated and renegotiated NAFTA, which basically just was NAFTA 2.0. He didn't change much except for intellectual property portion of it. But we started trading more with Canada and Mexico. That was a good thing. That's what we want. We want to trade more with Canada and Mexico. And I don't understand why people don't think that's a good thing, but that's a good thing. Now, one of the things we do have to look at is the fact that Mexico drivers can come right into our country and drive right back again. That should have been relooked at in regards to that process, but that they didn't. Now, if it was me, I would have probably negotiated that and said, well, you're going to have to cross-dock. You're only allowed 100 miles in. After that, you have to cross-dock. And going back over to Mexico, you have to also cross-dock. But that wasn't, that they still let them in and out, either way. At least with Mexico, Canada kind of has the same rules in regards to our transportation, but Mexico doesn't. So I probably would have did that, but that's just me. That's just me. Okay, so you now have Canada and Mexico top trading partners. Now they are also getting a 15% tax, global tariff on things. China is third. China's third, which is kind of what we want, right? If we're going to give money, we want to give money to Canada and Mexico because it's a better opportunity for Canada and Mexico to also be able to provide for us and buy from us and stuff like that. Like you want that stuff to happen. I know everybody wants everything made in America, but that won't work, and it's not smart. It's the same reason why you shouldn't have a family tree with no branches. It just don't work well. But you can find opportunities. Free trade gives opportunities for small businesses who once would not be able to compete to now look to places that have a lower standard of living, a lower cost for living, like Mexico, and have products made in Mexico that they can then resell or finish and sell in America, which is a good thing. That's a good thing. Right? All right, now here's the predicament. You also have down here India, someplace down here. Where's India? China, Vietnam, Germany. Japan is another one. Korea is another one. India right here. India, all these countries that now have this 34% or this 32% or this 20% or this 18% have basically come back and said, we are not paying 18%. Like India. India came and said, we're not paying 18%. We're going to pay 15%. So that when Donald Trump says that all these, countries that are playing games, all these countries like the EU has stopped their trade deal. India has stopped their trade deal. Korea and then all these countries are redoing their trade deal because most of these were not signed on paper. They were kind of handshakes. So India's come back and said, you can only charge us 15% for 150 days unless you go to Congress. So we're not going to pay you 18%. We're not doing that. It's just not going to happen. And if that's just, you can only charge us 15%. So we're no longer going to stand by our trade deal of 18%. Even though India didn't pay 18%, Donald Trump thinks they did, but U.S. companies paid the 18%. So that's no longer in effect. That's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So now you have a bunch of trade deals that weren't even really. You have a bunch of trade handshakes that have been were lower, like 10%. Like United Kingdom had a 10% one. That's now going up to 15%. So United Kingdom has said, hey, you remember that trade negotiation, that trade handshake we had that we were going to vote on because we have to vote on it? They said, never mind. We're not doing it. We're not doing it. You're out of luck. So now we have chaos. Well, we have stability in the market for the next 150 days. But then what you're going to see, in my opinion, because if it was me, if you had to pay an extra if you were going to buy a car and you had to pay an extra 15%, would you wait 150 days for that 15% to go away? Maybe. Or you might just say, well, I only need this much product to get me through 150 days. So I'm going to only buy this much product for 150 days. And then after the 150 days, I'll buy more. Because I'll save money if I just wait it out. Okay? All right. Now, how does that affect trucking? If you're in here and you're still a truck driver, let me know, because we're going to have a big problem here maybe very soon.
Can't charge $1. Listen up, drivers. You probably saw the headline saying the U.S. Supreme Court shut down.
I know. I'm sorry. I know. You guys have got to speed up your listening because I'm at one. I'm working my way to 3 with my hearing. All right, but we're going to do 1.5.
Trump's tariffs. But nobody's explaining what this actually means for cross.
Well, some people are, but nobody's. I'm just having
trucking, freight volume.
Also, the phone lines are still on. You can call in if you think I'm right, if you think I'm wrong, if you want to talk trucking, if you want to talk anything at all. Well, not anything at all, but logistics related.
His number, 856-600-4654, Sage Outcast.
All right.
Equipment prices and your paycheck. So let me...
All right, so what does this mean for all this stuff?
Break this down in trucking language. No politics, just business. The Supreme Court just ruled that some of the tariffs imposed by Trump were illegal. Why? Because tariffs are basically taxes on imported goods. And legally, only Congress has the power to...
Right there. IEEPA does not authorize the president to impose tariffs. Now, it's funny because I listened to a bunch of spaces that these people could not understand, and they thought Trump was going to use IEEPA to pay to do the tariffs. So they had no idea what the Supreme Court case was about.
To impose taxes, not the president using emergency power.
And this is good. This is a good thing. We don't want the president of the United States just to impose taxes. We want that to be a slow process. I mean, do any of you want to pay more in taxes? Of course we all do. And if the IRS is listening, all of us appreciate you very much. Let us move on.
Powers. Trump used something called emergency authority to place global tariffs on countries like Canada, Mexico, China, and other trading partners. The court said that authority didn't apply here, so those specific tariffs were struck down. But here's the important part. Tariffs themselves are not gone. Not gone. He
They're not gone. He's just finding other ways to do it.
Just have to be done differently. And this is where trucking comes in. Trump already moved to Plan B, a new global tariff. Up to 15% has been introduced using another legal tool that allow tariffs for about 150 days while investigations continue. The translation, well, trade tensions are not ending. Tariffs are not disappearing. We're entering another period of uncertainty. And trucking markets hate uncertainty.
We hate it. We hate it. We hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it. That's why we like contracted freight. That's why we like consistency, because if you know you're going to pay, we used to have budget billing, at least when I was growing up. My mom used to put us on budget billing for our power company, for our electric bill. So even though our electric bill was probably cheaper in the summer, because we didn't have air conditioning than it was in the winter, we paid the same price all year. Let's just say $100. I don't know what it was. I wasn't a part of the bill. But let's say, so if you knew everything was going to cost $100, you knew how to budget for that $100. But if you did not know what it was going to cost, if your car payment, let's use an example of your car payment. Your car payment is $300. Let's just pretend. I know it's a crazy number. Let's just say it's a car. Fine, $500. Fine, $500. All right, let's say your car payment is $500. And you know every month your car payment's going to be $500. Well, what if you didn't? Would you enjoy a car payment that you had no idea what it was going to be next month? It could be $350, or it could be $700, right? That's 100% possibility. Get a job. To me, you want me to get a job? Bro, I have more jobs than you have brain cells. Well, no, well, depends. I mean, do you more than two brain cells? I've got lots of jobs. Trust me. Anyways. If you basically did not know how much your car payment was going to be, so this month it might be $250, next month it might be $850, $900. You had no idea what to budget for. That would cause chaos in your household because you wouldn't know how much to put away for your car payment. Makes sense? So now you don't know what to spend. So you might want to buy something. You might want to spend money. You might want to take your money and then put it in the economy by purchasing goods, purchasing something else, or buying something else. But now you got to hold on to that money because you don't know if you're going to have enough money next month for the car payment, right? Here's another conversation I had with somebody. These guys are business people, right? They're business people. He owned rig companies. So he had 2 rigs that he ran for oil, right? And he wanted me to insure his oil, his truck, right? Because his truck was a special truck for rigging. I'm not going to get into that. Blah, blah, blah. Oil guy. So me and him are having a conversation, and he says, look, I got 2 options here. One, the price of steel is going up, which affects the casings. The casing is the pipe that goes in the ground that the oil goes through, plus other stuff. But I'm just saying that was his main thing because he had to run he told me 1,700 feet of casing or something he had to run to pipe everything. He was running all this casing. So he said, I got 2 options here. I can take $1 million. Let's just use a simple number. Let's take $1 million. I could take $1 million and I could invest and open up and get another rig and drill more oil when oil prices are not making me any money. He needed $70. I don't even know what's crude oil prices. Let's take a look. Crude oil. My guy here? He's not here. It's $66 right now. So prices are going up for oil. But for the longest time, or the conversation we were having, this was last year. Yeah, conversation we were having, it was down to $55, $56 a barrel. So it's up $10, right? From there. It was down there. And he says, I could take that money and I could basically say, hey, oh, that's funny. John Barron. That's actually pretty funny. We'll talk about that in a minute. I can say, hey, I can invest in oil and put another rig in and drill my oil at a loss and lose $4 a barrel right now. I could do that, but at the time it was $15 a barrel. But let's just say $4 a barrel. Or I can invest my $1 million in the stock market and watch it grow. Which would you do? Well, I'd put it in the stock market. So, just because the stock market is growing doesn't mean the economy's growing and doesn't mean all this stuff's coming back. because some of these people would rather invest in the stock market than invest in the country because they're profitable in the stock market. They're not going to be profitable in the country. And that's something I want you to think about when people say, yeah, but look at the stock market. Stock market's making all kinds of money, right? Because a lot of investors, a lot of people would rather invest in the stock market to make money than in actually invest in manufacturing. Oh, I got it. Maybe. Yeah, I got it.
Democrat.
Sage speaking.
What's up, Sage?
What's going on, brother?
Sage, what's up, big Brett? What's up, Sage?
What's going on?
What up, brother? Man, I'm laughing. He's mad because no tariff.
Well, we still have tariffs, technically.
I know. Supreme Court is the best. We're gonna sweep November. We're gonna take over this house.
Yeah.
Everybody go register, please, in every state you live in. Register to vote. Please, I am a registered voter.
Yeah.
My son is a United States military serviceman.
Okay, I'm listening.
And I thank God I don't support Trump. I thank God I don't work for man. I thank God I don't look up to no Trump. We look up to Jesus.
Yeah.
It's different. They look up to a man. They worship Trump. They call him God. There's only one God. He's in heaven. He sits high and looks low. They on their knee pads, these MAGAs. They are a bunch of idiots. I tell them all the time, come to the hood. They don't want to come to the hood. The hood is YouTube. Their hood is YouTube. They're scared.
Oh, for the love of God.
They hate Black Issue Month. They hate the immigrants. They hate themselves.
I know. I'm getting back
voted for Trump on purpose.
You're killing me, Smalls. I got to do the logistics show here, brother, but I appreciate you calling in.
My brother.
All right. I'm trying to keep on the logistics path. Trying to keep on some of the logistics path and the tariff path. But I do appreciate the phone call. Okay. Let me pull this one up here. Let me play this one. Hang on. Because I got...
So what does this mean for Canada and cross-border trade? Well, now Canadian carriers and cross-border drivers, about 90% of trade between Canada and the U.S. is protected under CUSMA. The North...
90% of trade is protected under CUSMA because that is a trade agreement that has been signed. But what is CUSMA? I don't know why he calls it CUSMA. That's kind of weird, and I don't want to go down the path of that because I've never actually heard it called that. But here's what we have to understand. Because to me, it was the U.S., Canada, Mexico agreement, not the Canadian-U.S. Maybe they just put the word. You know what? They just had to spell a word to make sure that they can remember it. Here's the problem with this, and I want you guys to be advised of this, especially if you're in trucking, especially if you're in any way, shape, or form in logistics. This is something you need to be aware of. Let's call it CUSMA, the Canadian-U.S.-Mexico agreement, which was signed by Donald Trump in his first term, was something that was signed in. That was good, okay? Problem is, he put a clause in there probably because he thought, I have no idea, actually, because would he have still been president? No. That in, was it July of 2026, this is going to be, can be relooked at. Okay, so in July of 2026, basically they can reevaluate if this is working or not. So the problem is, let me back this up. Did I search this? And it was up for review. I'll make sure I'm getting the July date right. Let me make sure I'm getting the July date right. Yes! Set to begin in July 2026. So the 2026 CUSMA agreement review set to begin in July 2026 is a mandatory 6-year check-in that assesses the agreement and decide on extending it for another 16 years. So this could literally end in July. Okay? Now remember, right now, our top trading partners are Mexico at 15.6% last year, but approximately. And Canada at 12.9%, then China. Now, the problem is that if Donald Trump says, you know what, you've been in some odd way going against us, Canada and Mexico, I'm going to now cancel that agreement. We're going to have to renegotiate another agreement. You're going to start to see that 15% tariffs, or portion of it by that time, because it's a couple months out. You're going to start to see a possibility of all of that free trade agreement that we have with Canada going away. That's a bad thing. I know everybody's like, oh, that's good. I love paying higher prices for goods. No, you don't. You don't. Because manufacturing is not going to come back to the United States, because manufacturing is going to go to other countries that have a lower cost of living, right? And I can give an example of this. Right now, if you are a Republican, you are probably cheering on people who are leaving California to go to Texas, and businesses that are leaving California to go to Texas, because Texas has a lower cost of living than Los Angeles, California. And you think that's a good thing. Why? Because they can build their products cheaper, which means hopefully that they're going to sell the products cheaper, which that doesn't always work because it's more based on demand than the cost of production. But you're cheering that. But what you don't want is these higher prices, if that makes any sense. Right? So I'm kind of nervous about the old agreement with Canada here.
American trade agreement. Right now, that means most cross-border freight keeps moving. No immediate shock to trucking volumes. It also means that Canada may actually benefit compared to countries facing higher tariffs. But
now, again, both countries are benefiting from free trade.
There's a big thing coming. The Kuzma Agreement review is approaching. If that agreement changes or isn't extended, that's where manufacturing, freight lanes, and trucking demands could shift quickly. So today, it's stable, but the future is uncertain.
Correct. We have no idea what's going to happen at that point. Because we have no idea what the new trade agreement or what the trade agreement is going to look like. If Donald Trump can now say, hey, we're not going to abide by it. And he could just walk in and say, yeah, it's not working. It's not working. We're canceling it. We're not going to do this anymore.
Politics. Here's what drivers should actually pay attention to. Number one, manufacturing freight tariffs change where goods are built. If production moves back into North America, more domestic freight, more regional lanes, different opportunities for carriers.
True. But that's going to take, and what he's not saying is that's going to take years and years and years to do, okay? Because remember, you don't just drop it in. It's not like building like SimCity. What actually happens is it takes years for them to determine where they're going to build, years for them to negotiate with the county, city, towns, whatever, years for it to be built, and years for those companies to turn a profit. And that just because, now remember, if they're coming back to the United States to build here, it's going to be more money. Because if it wasn't more money, they would have never left in the first place. So if it's going to cost them more to build, it's going to cost you more to buy. Okay? If that happens. Now, most likely that's not going to happen because companies are going to say, well, I would rather invest in Vietnam because it's still way cheaper to build it in Vietnam than to build it here. Depending on what the product is. If it's a door handle, yes. If it's a finished BMW, no.
Number two, equipment and repair costs. Tariffs affect steel, parts, trailers, trucks. That means equipment prices and repairs costs can move fast. Freight volume.
Yes, steel, products. A lot of them are made in other countries, are rebuilt in other countries, and then basically shipped back. Remember, an automotive, a car, crosses country lines multiple times before it's finished. It can go from here back to Canada. Next thing you know, they're putting leather on it. Then it comes back here. Then they're putting something else on it. Then it goes back to Mexico. It can cross country lines 4 or 5 times before it's in the finished product.
Every time trade policy changes, shippers slow their decision.
That's why, I'll be honest with you, the only thing I have not done in freight was automotive. Automotive shipping and freight, to me, is like one of the wonders of the world. To be completely honest, it is so impressive that they can basically do all of that, and they used to. I don't know, it's kind of more chaotic now. They could do multiple cross state lines, cross country lines, have stuff come in on ships, and still get the product there just when they're running out of the product on the assembly line. I don't know. I guess I'm a nerd. I'm a freight nerd.
And rates fluctuate. We've all seen these cycles before. So let me now talk directly to smart carriers, owner-operators, small fleets, and drivers thinking about scaling. Moments like this create opportunity, but only for disciplined operators.
Correct. It creates opportunity. One of the things that you're definitely going to want to look at... hang on. Oh, okay. One of the things that you're going to want to definitely look at if you are in trucking is now is the time to be as efficient as you possibly can be. Honestly, Figure out ways. Man, I'm starting to do consulting calls. I'm starting to do compliance calls. I'm starting to look at your insurance. This, like I said, yes. Am I pushing this new job out? Yes, but it is at a benefit to a carrier, especially if you are in open deck, or you're doing over-dimensional freight, or you're doing specialized equipment. That is my specialty. Everything from getting shipping the freight, stuff like that. But you are going to want to optimize what's going on right now. Optimize what you're doing. Because the people that don't...
Governments change tariffs when trade deals are under pressure. When courts step in, the future becomes unstable. And unstable markets are where trucking companies make their biggest mistakes. This is not the time to make emotional decisions. Don't suddenly go and buy 10 more trucks. Double your fleet size, sign massive long-term leases, build that beautiful new terminal, spend millions assuming that freight will explode tomorrow. Because the truth is, nobody knows exactly where trade policies are going to be in the next 6 to 12 months. Freight
True, and that's a problem, that chaos.
Could shift, lanes could change, rates could swing again. So what should smart carriers do? Stay lean, protect your cash flows, strengthen your...
And the phones are on. If you have questions, let me know.
His
Sonia.
number, 856-600-4654. Outcast. I have questions.
relationships with good customers, reduce unnecessary debt, and keep equipment reliable, not flashy. Right now, the winners are not the fastest growers. The winners are the companies that survive uncertainty. I've been in trucking long enough to tell you this. The operators who wait, watch, and move strategically are the ones buying trucks cheap when everyone else is overexpanding.
True. Those are also the ones, listen, I'm telling you right now, compliance is going to be a huge factor in the future. Huge factor. All right. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on with Mexico because this is going to affect us also.
Wanted drug traffickers. As expected, violence has now erupted across Mexico, threatening to spiral into a full-blown war. Now, this is a developing situation. The violence is still spreading across the country. So we're going to get into what we know so far as of 4 p.m. Central Time on Sunday, February 22nd, what to expect in the coming days, and what it would take for the United States to get directly involved. On that note of U.S. involvement, my understanding now from the reporting that I've seen is that the United States provided intelligence support to the Mexican military. There have not been any official statements or any reliable sources.
Yet. So that could change. Now, again, any type of conflict, any type of war with Iran, any type of war with, well, not really war with Mexico, any type of conflicts in Mexico, this could dramatically change freight and logistics. So be advised.
Should say, suggesting that the United States had any more involvement than that. No U.S. aircraft overhead and certainly no U.S. boots on the ground. That's as of reporting right now. Of course, that could change.
U.S. will not allow certain vehicles to come in. That's why they're finishing the United States. They do. It's just more profitable for us to finish the product in the United States than to make the door handles. Because we can pay people for the finished product. It's very difficult to pay anybody good money for that. Oh, where's the Byron guy? Where's the? This is actually pretty funny. Where did that go?
I heard that Trump turned the cartel boss in. He has a reputation for turning people in, so I thought that's what I heard. What happened?
Well, he called the sheriff down there, and well, not really the sheriff, the federale, and basically said, "I'm glad you arrested that guy. I knew he was a bad guy," and that's kind of what he did. Yeah. The John Byron thing. So there was a phone call into C-SPAN that somebody called in with one of Trump's aliases that he used. Trump used to use an alias. I don't know if you know this or not. He used to use an alias. And he would call into radio stations and he would kind of promote himself and his brand and different things. And the alias was John Brennan, I think it was, something like that. And recently there was a C-SPAN call that somebody who sounded like Trump, who called himself John Brennan, and started to bash the tariff thing. That was not actually Trump that called in. That was somebody else. C-SPAN has actually put out a message stating that it was not Trump. But back in the 1980s, Donald Trump would do that and call in and lie about who he was and use that as an opportunity to promote himself and promote the things that he was doing, just so you know. Yeah.
Now, to give you an idea of how significant this operation was, the Latin Times said, quote, "The killing immediately becomes one of the most consequential blows to a major Mexican criminal organization in years, both because CJNG has been widely described as among the country's most powerful and violent groups, and because El Mencho has remained a fugitive despite a years-long binational mandate."
Yeah, small businesses do want their money back. I don't think he's going to talk about that tonight on his speech because he's already saying that he's probably not going to give the money back.
manhunt that includes a U.S. State Department reward of up to $15 million for information leading to his arrest or conviction. I don't speak Spanish. I feel like El Mencho is pretty close to what it's supposed to be, but I'm sure I'm getting that wrong in some way, and I'll hear about it in the comments. But that's what we're talking about. El Mencho, the head of CJ&G. The Associated Press went into a little more detail here, saying the Mexican army killed the leader of the Jalisco New Generation cartel, El Mencho, on Sunday, decapitating what had become Mexico's most powerful cartel. They say El Mencho was wounded in an operation on Sunday to capture him in Jalisco, and he died while being flown to Mexico City. The state of the base of the cartel is known for trafficking huge quantities of fentanyl and other drugs to the United States, according to the Mexican government. They say during the operation, troops came under fire and killed 4 people.
Now again, remember, right now there is chaos. Oh, I'll reconnect my controller. Black screen back there. There is chaos going on in Mexico, and Mexico, like I said, the reason we're listening to this is Mexico's our top trading partner. Their top trading partner. So if they're hijacking trucks, if they're stopping freight from crossing the border, which could be a possibility, because remember, something that if we do get involved, the cartel will 100% hijack trucks that are coming over the border. They will stop freight from coming to Mexico to the United States. Okay? They're already said they would. They're already doing that. Well, they're not doing it completely. They're hijacking trucks right now. They had to shut down ports because of things. So be advised, if you're in trucking, that if it is known that we were involved or we do get involved, that one of the things that they're going to do is start stealing our freight. And so what'll happen is we will have to shut down. It'll just stop. And there could be shortages of different things. Remember, we get a lot of food from Mexico also, right? Because they can farm down there when they can't farm. Like right now, you could not farm up here in Maine. I have 3 foot of snow. How do I know? Because I shoveled it. For the last time. I swear to God, I will not shovel snow again this year. I will paddle a boat across my snowbanks before I shovel snow anymore. I'm pissed off. I'm tariffing snow.
3 more, including El Mencho, were wounded and later died. 2 were arrested, and they said that armored vehicles, rocket launchers, and other arms were seized, adding that 3 members of the armed forces.
Takes a special kind of stupid to be liberal. Hey, is there any way you can call in G-Day Space? Do you know how to work the phones? Because there's a number on the screen. Is it capable you could dial that number for me? Because I'd love to talk to you.
Were wounded and are now receiving medical treatment. As is the case, anytime something happens with the cartels, we've got...
Oh, yeah, your Mexican Coke with the Mexican sugar. Yeah, that might be... Mexican Coca-Cola, that could be a problem.
Some old footage popping around the internet showing off some of their armored vehicles. They are more advanced now than they were, and they have a lot of them. So it would have been more surprising had there not been armored vehicles at the site where El Mencho was captured /
Well, that's true, too.
And this is just something to keep in mind as the violence continues to escalate. This is so much more than, a street gang or a low-level gang. These guys have armored vehicles. They have rocket launchers. They have machine guns. They are not just they have a lot of drones, and that's going to be an interesting one to see how it plays out if this violence continues to spiral. And they're also very well trained. All right, so this is not quite force on force, like equal playing field, but it's much closer to that than it is, say, in the United States, if the U.S. military were to go after a gang somewhere in the U.S., not a fair fight. This is closer to a level playing field in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Now, the Associated Press added that the DEA considers the cartel to be as powerful as the Sinaloa cartel, one of Mexico's most infamous criminal groups with a presence in all 50 U.S. states. They say it is one of the main suppliers of cocaine to the U.S. market, and like the Sinaloa cartel, earns billions from the production of fentanyl. And
again, like I said, be advised. Like you said, they've already hijacking trucks, but they have already stated that there could be a lot more of these trucks hijacked, shut down, not making it up to the border of the United States, not being able to deliver products, things like that.
Methamphetamines. So, bad dude, bad leader? Or,
real quick, Sage, I do have a question.
Uh-oh.
Why did we shoot all the boats for Venezuela, but we haven't shot all the stuff up for Mexico if they're the largest suppliers of fent?
That's a great question.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe he's waiting for boats to be traveling by land, actually. No. It's probably because of the,
the water drugs you're talking about?
Maybe the, boats. Why did we blow up the Venezuelan boats again? And not if the cocaine's coming from Mexico? Didn't we let go of Honduras guy, too, that was a leading drug person?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
And
then we didn't.
Said that he was now a good guy or something. I guess they rehabbed him while he was in prison.
Yeah.
It was all about the oil in Venezuela.
No, it's not about the oil. It was about the fentanyl. Cocaine's, unless they laced maybe, I don't know. You got me. I can be completely honest with you. I have no idea. I can admit I don't know.
The bad dude was a leader of a bad organization, I think, to say the least. Right now, in terms of the violence that's spreading, a lot of the videos that you're seeing right now is the result of CJ&G attacks across the country. We don't have very much from the actual kill capture mission itself, but the burning vehicles, the roadblocks and such, that is the response from CJ&G. El Huaso, a great analyst over on X, whose information will be linked in the description below, put together this graphic saying he is now tracking narco-related violence in 18 states. That's how quickly this started to spiral. In fact, on that note, we'll put a couple different sources in the description for anybody who wants to follow this more up to date on Twitter or on Instagram. El Huaso is one. Stefano Rittendale over on All Source News, of course, another great one. We've got Stefano coming on tomorrow, hopefully, to do a little more deeper dive into all of this, so be sure to tune back in for that one. Now, we're seeing a wide range of what these response and attacks look like at this point. In terms of casualty figures, really not clear. I've not seen any viable reporting on that at all. Outside of the Mexican government talking about the results of that raid, everything else is just a mess, is probably the best way to put it. Don't have details on military personnel killed. We know some of them have been targeted. Don't have information on additional cartel members killed. Don't have any information on civilians caught in the crossfire. However, there was an unconfirmed report, and we have a couple of these to mention today, that the CJ&G is prioritizing going after military personnel, which would not be shocking given the fact that the military just killed their leader.
True.
And in one text message, it said that they are offering up to 20,000 pesos for each dead Mexican soldier or member of the Mexican military. Again, unconfirmed text message coming across right now. A lot of what we're seeing in the streets, and a lot of the pictures and the videos coming out right now are showing roadblocks, burning vehicles being set up by the cartels. And the idea there is to hinder security force movement into and out of certain areas. There's some locations talking about dozens of these roadblocks happening. In a lot of cases, you got 18-wheelers being drug out in the middle of the road and set ablaze. We've seen.
Yeah, so be advised that that's
countless reports already of shootouts between armed gangs and authorities. Maybe some bombings. I did see a picture earlier, or some pictures I'll share here, that was from a National Guard compound. It looked an awful lot like something went boom in there. I haven't heard any reports of those bombings and what they might entail. There were also some reports and some videos suggesting that there were armed gunmen in and around the Guadalajara International Airport. And that's just to kind of say that, like, this is just going everywhere. Right? So as soon as El Mencho was killed, everything spiraled. Like, we've got an international airport effectively shut.
And we're probably going to have a power vacuum
down at this point. I mean, Southwest and Alaska Airlines said that they canceled any flights out of Puerto Vallarta. Delta issued waivers to anybody in and out of Puerto Vallarta or Guadalajara. Like, it wasn't just this one operation. We're seeing areas across Mexico, especially in that general vicinity, shut down. And when you look at the videos coming out right now, it looks like all of the citizens have kind of stayed inside. There's an order to do that from the government, and it sounds like the cartels are also threatening people, saying, stay inside or else. CBS News reports that...
Now remember, stay inside could be stay inside your house, so some of these people might be the ones that are going to work to make stuff, and now they're not going to work because they're being told to stay inside.
The Jalisco governor activated a code red, which is protocol for a state of emergency or security crisis in response to the clashes. In a post on X, he said public transportation was suspended across Jalisco and urged people in the area to remain in their homes until the situation was under control. The U.S. State Department also issued a warning for U.S. citizens in a number of different states to shelter in place until further notice. I was mentioning the couple text messages that I cannot personally verify. We'll see if Stefano can maybe talk about this a bit more tomorrow, but I am seeing them reported on what I consider reliable channels. One of them was coming from the CJ&G to people in some of these areas, telling them, quote, do not leave your homes. All hell is going to break out because of the filthy government. We have orders to kill anyone who gets in our way, and we don't want to harm the people. Everyone stay in your homes until the situation is under control. Now, I did see, there's been a lot, actually, at this point of misinformation, disinformation spreading around this. A lot of old pictures, some AI already. One of them was showing a burned-out airplane on a tarmac at the Guadalajara International Airport.
Yeah, that wasn't real.
Doesn't appear to be genuine. Another one was a relatively big account over on Twitter or X, said that Americans were being taken hostage because by the cartels.
Oh, you don't say. Lori Luminer. Yeah.
And in a response to U.S. operation that killed El Mencho, like nothing in that statement is accurate.
True.
The Mexican government is pretty quick to try to bat that down a little bit and say, hey, U.S. forces were not involved, and there are no credible reports right now that the cartels are.
And this is also bad because the last thing you do is want fake news to come out that they're taking U.S. people when they're not, because then you get a response from us. And our goal is not to have that happen.
Targeting Americans, or that they have captured or abducted any hostages at this point. So just be ready that flow of misinformation is only going to increase. So in terms of what comes next, I think the next 12 to 18 hours are going to be pretty significant here. We're going to find out overnight, or at least get an idea overnight, if this is kind of a short spurt of reactionary violence. And we've seen that before. When major cartel officials have been killed or captured, you see responses, right? They take to the streets to show that they're still in control of certain areas. Is that what's happening here, or is this kind of the start of what genuinely could lead into a form of civil war? Another big question is going to be whether or not the government, which is mobilizing resources now, from what we can tell, is the government going to be able to mobilize enough and in the right area to actually quash the violence? Do they still have control, or is this the kind of thing that will essentially show the world that they do not have control? More middle to long-term predictions here. The Latin Times says, quote, one short-term consequence is volatility.
All right. You guys kind of get the gist. Like I said, their top trading partner were 15%, about $731 billion crossed last year from January to October. Canada was next. I don't see much stuff up here in Canada. I'll let you know if I see a bunch of soldiers coming down with hockey sticks because of the recent U.S. win in the Olympics. I just want to say that. Good job, guys. But I don't think they're going to invade the United States over a hockey game. Now, they might. It is Canada. But I will protect you with my hockey stick. And I have snowbanks. I can make snowmen. So you'll be safe. You'll be safe. Now, if anybody wants to call in, Crybaby Sage. That's pretty good. You're welcome to call in, like Sleepy Man Bad. I don't know what that means. You're welcome to call in real quick if you have any questions regarding tariffs or anything logistical. But that was basically it. To be completely honest, I know the ports were shut down up here in the port of Manizalo was suspended, and then it opened back up, which is good. Like I said, my main concern is going to be Kuzma, which is the Canada, United States, Mexico agreement, which is up for reevaluation in July. So that could basically be canceled, per se. And then we go back to tariffs with Canada, where we did have free trade agreement before. Kanadami was covering, let's see here. I am looking for this shirt. I can't wait to see. I'm going to get one. A veteran of the trade war 2025. Honorable discharge. I would buy this shirt, just so you know. If anybody wants to buy this shirt for me and send it to me, let me know. Let me know. That's awesome. That was pretty much... Oh, I was on XM Radio. That's what I wanted to talk about. Ron Carpenter. So if you're on X. Now, me and Ron Carpenter don't agree on everything. He is definitely probably on the right. I am not. But we had a fair conversation yesterday on X, on Road Dog Radio. I called in as a caller. And Charles, if you're listening, you kept me on hold for way too long. But besides that, and I will remember that. No. Besides that, I did call in. We did have a conversation. He is, like I said, a lot of the stuff that he was talking about in regards to insurance companies and stuff like that is true. And I brought up a topic also. I asked him, and we both agreed on this, was the fact that we have trucking companies that don't understand insurance, and we have insurance that doesn't understand trucking. And it's a bad mixture, which is basically creating a lot of chaos in regards to the insurance stuff. So I did have a conversation with him, and then we reached out to each other and basically messaged each other. So I might be bringing him on. But yeah, so that was an injured conversation. Let's see what else happened. Basically, I think that's pretty much it, to be completely honest. I guess Sleepy Man Bad's not looking to call in because anytime... You know what's funny is that they say stuff, but then when you say call in, they never call in. That's weird. Weird, right? I think that's weird, to be honest. Be completely honest. But yeah, that was pretty much all I wanted to cover today. Was basically the tariffs, the markets, and paying attention to the July, which could truly change a lot in regards to how pricing of goods and things like that if we decide not to re-up the free trade agreement that we have with Mexico and Canada. Which, I don't know the way it's going. I don't think Trump's going to re-up it. Now, the only thing that might save us is the fact that he did that. Like, he's the one that negotiated that. So, I don't know. But I will be on watch for that. Besides that, I guess if nobody's going to call in, if you got no calls, I'll give it another couple minutes for Sleepy Man Bad. I do know that my producer allegedly took the day off yesterday. But let me see if I can find what he was actually doing. If you guys want to see my producer, here it is right here. Let me see if I can put this over here. Yeah, this is my producer, Justin. Hang on. So this is what he was doing yesterday.
Rest yesterday? Oh.
See? That's what he did yesterday.
Got some rest last night.
See?
Yeah. I went to bed early.
Yeah.
Man, I went to bed about like 8 or 9 o'clock.
He goes by Richie the Barber on YouTube, but I'm just saying that may or may not be him. I'm not sure. Sort of like when Trump calls in and pretend he's somebody else. I think Justin calls in. I think that's the real Justin, and when he calls in back here, he pretends to be somebody else. Just so you know, because he wasn't in yesterday. That was pretty much it.
Big negative. Definitely not me.
That's not you? Are you sure? You wouldn't tell us what you were, though. To be honest.
Sure, I would.
You wouldn't. I barely would. Face orange, raised eyebrows. Sleeping Man Bad, you gonna call in? You gonna talk to us for a minute or two?
No, he's not. He's too chicken shit.
Well, it is
He's
what
a
it is.
keyboard warrior.
He is a keyboard warrior. I do like when they call in. I would be fair with people now. I have a whole different attitude in regards to people calling in. Why can't I turn this off, for the love of God? I haven't. Yes, thank you, Sleeping Man. John Byron. Thank you, Sleeping Man. I do appreciate that. John Byron. He called in the 1980s as John Byron into different radio stations and stuff like that. And then there was just a C-SPAN. Somebody called in as John Byron with a Trump accent and pretended to be Trump. But C-SPAN has come out and said, no, that was not him. See, Sleeping Man Bad. You're not all bad, bro. Oh God, he is calling in. Well, maybe not. No, it's not. Hang on. Thank you for running the Sage Outcast show. Bert?
How you doing, Steve?
Hey, how's it going, brother?
Yeah, tonight the State of the Union is going to be all about affordability. Is he going to say anything about giving small business owners their refund checks?
I don't think so, to be honest.
How about the soybean owners that have thousands and thousands of, like in my state of Colorado? We don't know what to do with our soybeans because it's still up in rafters and warehouses. Are you going to say anything about that?
Probably not, because that soybean sales have been going to Argentina and Brazil from China.
I was going to say, yes, they did. And the biggest thing right now that everybody's talking about is when we were in a government shutdown, they spent millions upon millions to bail out Argentina. Remember that?
Yeah.
And how come he's not refunding any of these small businesses, any of these soybean owners, especially in my state, Mexico, Arizona, especially Arizona.
I think a lot of that's
Arizona is very upset.
Yeah, a lot of that's going to have to go to the courts, and the courts are going to have to are going to have to start to do that. They're going to fight that. They're going to fight any of the money back, 100%. And I wouldn't expect it any other way, to be honest, unfortunately. I don't think he would just give it back. That's just not the government style, yeah.
And they're saying tonight that it might be a walkout for at least 100 people because those are signed seats on the Democrat side and the Republican side in the House of Representatives. So people might not show up for the State of the Union. And we're just wondering, this is your question, how many Supreme Court justices are you going to see tonight?
Well, I bet 3 at least, but I don't know. And I think the problem is that I think the Supreme Court justices will show up because and they need to show up, like it or not. They need to show up because they need to basically say, "Hey, I'm impartial. I don't care what he says about me. I don't care what the Democrats say about me, and I don't care what the Republicans say to me." They need to be impartial.
That's right.
So if you are a Supreme Court justice and you're listening to this show, which I guarantee you're not, first thing I would say is please help me shovel. And then the second thing I would say is basically, look, show up. Show up to show that you are impartial to what people say so that, because we understand that I don't want you affected by what anybody says to you.
That's right.
Just interpret
just like
the law.
Somebody said,
just interpret the law.
They're for the Constitution. The Supreme Court judges will always go for the Constitution first before a president.
Yeah.
And I got a electric snowblower if you need it. Let
Jesus
me know
Christ.
anytime you want it, Shade.
Yeah, I'm going to come get that, actually. But I do appreciate you calling in, brother.
All right, there's my 60 seconds. Bye, Sage.
Yeah, and that was one of the things, too, in regards to why they did not decide if to give the money back or not. Supreme Court judges don't decide to give money back. They decide, is this constitutional or is this not constitutional? Done. That's what they decide. And basically, the tariffs were not constitutional, and that's what they decided. And it's 6-3. So that's kind of how that works. Besides that, I don't know. Like I said, I kind of just like doing the show. Oh, how's it going there, Justin? I kind of like just doing the show, covering what I've got, and seeing if there's a call, and if there's not, I'm out. To be honest. So that being said, can you fax Congress for free? You can fax Congress for free. I'll fax them a link to the show. Yes, send them a link to the show. That would be fantastic. You want to know what's funny? I was actually up here. We have the Susan Collins and the race for Senate with Susan Collins and God, I hate names. Not Graham. What the hell is his name up here? But I constantly get emails. Actually, I probably have an email right now. I was actually wanting to reach out to him and see if I could get him on the show because obviously I'm in Maine and he's in Maine. I'm trying to find it. He's the war veteran, but he's sending me a bunch of emails. But I thought that'd be it. Oh, there he is. Team Graham. Team Graham is, I'm thinking about reaching out to Team Graham because he's running for senator up here against Susan Collins, who's been here forever. But I'm kind of leaning towards Graham, to be honest, which is weird. Because the Susan Collins... Anyways, different show, different topic. I don't want to get sidetracked on that. All right, that's going to be no more phone calls. Going once, going twice. I'll give you a second or two because there's a delay. I'm going to sign off here and get back to work. Now, if you are looking for any type of factoring... I forgot to turn my factoring thing on, actually. God darn it. If you're looking for factoring, reach out to me. If you're looking for any type of insurance for open deck carriers, reach out to me. Do an insurance with them. Do call insurance with them. I know I should. And now everybody's jumping in my Discord. Also, go to my community page. You guys are welcome to join the Discord because I'm going to be doing a lot more, I think, shows on backstage on the Discord. Because, like, we have people we can listen to, like, right here. Is the crazy person going yet? Let me see. I'll give you an example. And they can't stop me because they don't know who I am. All right, hang on. Unmute. Oh, nobody's talking yet because they just started the show. Yeah, join the Discord because we talk backstage a lot.
There's another day in the life.
There's no day in the life. See, that's the people we're going to kind of pick on today.
Have you been shoveling your snow? Is that why you're so late coming in here? You had to dig yourself.
I have shoveling my snow. That's a completely different show. But do me a favor, like I said, join the Discord. It's on my community post. You can click the link. I'll make you, you just sign up to be a member, and I'll bring you in, and we'll be good from there. That being said, I'm ducking out of here. Where's my end show? Hey, I got to check this out. I got a new intermission. You ready? Listen. I'm just telling you right now. Whoever put me in the direction of this AI music creating YouTube or music creating website, that would be Truck Diver. Blame him because I'm now addicted and I might have bought a year's purchase for it. So if you guys need me to make music for you, if you guys, hey, where's Sleepy Man Bad? Sleepy Man Bad, are you still in here? Sleepy Man Bad? I'm willing to make you an AI song all about you. Just so you know, just by your name, Sleepy Man Bad. Actually, somebody write that down. Sleepy Man Bad. We're going to make an AI song for all of my haters, one at a time. And I will dedicate that song, and we're going to have a whole separate section of the channel that we put out that music. Where the heck is my link for my thing? Does anybody know where I put that? Show topic. Oh, there it is right here. See, I'm supposed to put this on right there. All right.
I'm friendly.
That being said, yeah, I want the haters. Sleepy Man, yes. Make a song. Yes, I'm going to make Sleepy Man Bad a song. Sleepy Man Bad. We're going to do all the haters. All right, that being said, I'm out.
He called me this morning.
Hear the echoes in the night
sky. And I'm thinking power back until Friday. Now the guy's in Mexico. He's got one kid there. He's got a hurt leg. Now I got to go heat up the house because if not, it's going to get down to like 21 tonight. The house is going to freeze. So yeah, brutal. It's been one hard winter.
Yeah, and we're supposed to get more snow tonight or tomorrow night. I think 1 to 3 inches. It's just, I'm done with it. Our complex, the rest of the world. My husband just sent me pictures. He goes, the rest of the world looks great out here, and then you come to our complex. It looks like they haven't touched it at all.
Yeah. Hey, maybe we can say hello to Texas Fred. You got a mic up here, brother. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I don't know, brother.